What'd you have for breakfast? Go.
Oh man, I don't remember.
Oh,
raisin toast and peanut butter.
both.
Yeah.
Raisin
And
toast
jam?
and peanut butter.
Nope, no jam.
No jam.
And
today.
2 strawberries, but they were like this big. For people that can't see it, it was like as big
It's
as a
probably
tangerine.
GMO.
Yeah, it probably was actually.
That was a jam
I
substitute.
wondered why they were on sale.
Jam substitute, just strawberries whole.
Yeah, it was a good decision.
Did you mush them?
No, I ate them like beside the toast.
What up, champions? Thank you all for being here for the 3rd ever episode of the Championship Lifestyle Podcast. I'm doing this intro solo because Sylvie's in California for a conference and enjoying some sun, which is unfortunate for you guys because I'm sure she is much nicer to talk to, or listen to anyway, than I am. I know she's nicer to talk to. I'm sure she's nicer to listen to. We just want to say thank you for being here. We were thrilled with the way the episode came out. Our guest, JB, Miss Janey Brown, is a close friend of ours. I was going to do an intro in here, but I realized that I did one, or at least she did one in the episode itself. So we'll just cut this, keep it short, and get you guys right into the episode. I promise it's gold. Some awesome insights and takeaways from it. We want to talk about sponsorships. Shout out to our moms, chief sponsor. You know, they brought us into this world and we're still here. So thank you to Ann and Karen. We also want to talk about BioSteel. Great company, Toronto-based nutrition company. They deal with high-performance sports nutrition. We're talking proteins, which are delicious. I want to say chocolate, vanilla, strawberry. And I heard, and I just learned this, that there's like a peanut butter chocolate or a peanut butter. So I don't know. I love peanut butter, so I'm sure it's delicious. They also do isolates, chocolate, vanilla, and I believe just strawberry. I don't think that they have a peanut butter isolate, but maybe they do. Someone can clarify that. What else? Oh, they do an HPSD, which is their high performance sports drink. So that's like a Gatorade or a Powerade, but instead of being garbage, it's delicious and really, really good for you. BCAAs, vitamin B, there's beets in it. If you guys have ever listened to Sylv, you know that we're all about the beats, beating people up, dropping mad beats. I don't know any other beat puns, so I'm just going to cut it there. And yeah, that's it. Oh, there's some mild swearing. And by mild swearing, I mean we swear. So if you're in the car with kids, that's just a little forewarning. I don't know what kind of parent you are. I don't know how you parent. So it's up to you. If you're cool with it, that's cool. But we just wanted to give everyone a heads up. So guys, without further ado, the 3rd ever episode of the Championship Lifestyle Podcast with Miss Janey Brown.
Understand something, guys. Nothing worth ever having in this world comes easy.
Do what these champions doing if you're going to be a champion.
You control your outcome.
Who am I?
I'm a champion.
What up, champions? Welcome back to the 3rd ever episode of the Championship Lifestyle Podcast. We're excited to have you. We're even more excited to have our guest, Janey Brown.
Hey.
JB, you do your own intro. Give us a little, give us the Reader's Digest version.
Okay.
I'll add some awesome details though.
No,
Sweet. Yeah, please fill in the blanks for me. There's just too much to say. Just kidding. So I'm a performer of 20 years and a wellness expert of 11 years. And I'm currently now officially an online coach for people that want to manage their performance anxiety. So performance mindset coach, you could say.
You could say.
If you will.
Yeah, Janey's a badass friend of ours, most importantly. Very close friend of ours.
you guys run a retreat company together. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So yeah, Janey and I met 9 years ago, it would have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow,
Creeping
it
up on
sounds
9 for
so
sure.
weird. And then we lost touch, and my sister and I started a retreat company, and we needed a really awesome yoga instructor, and Janey popped up on my Facebook for some reason, and I reached out to her and connected again, and yeah, it's been a couple years later, and we now have done 2 retreats, and yeah, so we do it every year in Costa Rica, and it's been an awesome experience.
Yeah. It's our last retreat that we just finished was life-changing.
Yeah.
For them and for us.
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah, it was amazing. That could be a whole podcast itself.
Yes,
but we won't go.
Maybe we'll go there eventually.
Yeah.
Ready? JB, let's talk. We're going to talk about a bunch of things. Your present program deals with performance coaching for who?
Basically anyone that wants to instill more confidence in their life, anybody that wants to improve their leadership abilities and start to take ownership of their authenticity. And I know that that's kind of a buzzword, but in essence, authenticity is really just living your truth, really being able to have emotional honesty as you go about your life. And so that is that if you're that person, if you have the courage to want to do those things, then like this program's for you. I target performers, obviously, actors, singers, but also business professionals, sales professionals. I have a guy that's in real estate actually that just signed up who's been crushing it. So, I mean, yeah, it's really dependent on what you want for your life, but that's, yeah.
And we've talked previously off microphone. I was about to say off camera, but there's no cameras.
One day there will be.
Yeah, off microphone about anxiety prior, like performance anxiety and
Yeah.
just anxiety in general. And I think probably a good spot to start because it's a good connector. So many people deal with it. So many people have it. Maybe a nice starting point, and then we can go from there and bridge out. Man, I'm so comfortable on the mic today. Second
Yeah.
podcast in a day. Talk to me your first experience with anxiety, and not that general healthy anxiety that we all feel,
Sure.
right? But the first time that it was overwhelming.
Yeah. So actually the funny thing about that is people always say that like when you go on stage you get butterflies, like quote unquote butterflies. That's when anxiety is healthy. But one of my clients actually explained that it's not butterflies. It feels like killer vampire bats with machine guns.
That's
Which is
amazing.
an epic description.
I
So-
think you should go with that. for
Oh,
now.
totally. So that's kind of how you know when, like, the difference between when it's healthy and unhealthy. The first time that I experienced in a performance setting, the killer vampires bats with machine guns, was probably around 14 when I sang. So I had been performing at that point since I was 10, and at 14 I was like, okay, I want to start to be a solo artist. And I sang for my entire student body my first year of high school. And it just shook me. Like there was just a lot, a lot to that performance. So I remember feeling that, but just kind of not acknowledging it because it was like, well, I do this all the time. And I can't feel this way if I'm a performer because that's not acceptable in this industry. So I'm just going to fight through it and just get up and get up and get up and get up. So that was, probably start.
Is there like a shame with feeling that way in the industry?
Big time. I think, especially in classical performing, there's this expectation of perfectionism for sure. And musical theater performance has an element of classical, like a classical tone to it. So there's an expectation that you are like perfect in the way that you dance, perfect in the way that you sing, perfect in the way that you perform with your fellow like cast members. But there's also no support for people struggling with anxiety. There's no so the attitude is basically if you can't get up there and do your job, someone will do it for you. Like
Right.
don't get on stage then.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's
Very similar to sport,
yeah.
like especially individual sport.
Right. Yeah.
There's that same sort of, I mean, you can speak on this,
No,
because you're in an
100%.
individual sport.
Yeah, of course. It's taboo. I mean, I guess
Right.
I wouldn't know. You could speak to it more than I can. Obviously, fighting is this macho, masculine activity, or
Oh,
even if
God,
it's
yeah.
feminine, like supremely, like feminine/masculine in the way that you go about it.
Yep.
So there's an expectation that boys don't cry,
Right.
right? So
No weakness. Like,
right, exactly.
You don't show emotion
Strength,
to your opponent.
no weakness.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But so definitely. You said anxiety in performance. That was the first time anxiety in performance.
Yeah.
So is there a second half of that, like anxiety outside of performance?
Yeah, so upon discovering that I had performance anxiety, by the way, which was like 10 years later or 15 even, I'd have to do the math, but I didn't discover I had actual performance anxiety until many years later, like 2013 actually. And when I did all this reflection on like sort of how it began and where it all started, because that's kind of how I started to heal it, I also looked at like what I was like outside of performing, and it was really clear to me that I also had an anxiety disorder, if you will, like just even in high school, like walking down the halls, like it was in my body, and it's hard to say which came first, like the chicken or the egg. Like, was I massively consumed with performance anxiety, thus I just had anxiety all the time, or was I already having trouble with anxiety and thus I got performance anxiety? So it's hard to say which one came first, but I definitely had anxiety a lot outside of the stage as well.
So in back then, did you have certain like coping strategies or methods or even unhealthy ones that you went to? Like how did you at that time, like were you aware that it was a thing, and how did you deal with it back then?
Yeah, well, like the funny thing is I didn't actually know that I had it. Like I think, you know, I innately knew that I was scared to death before I would get on stage and when I was preparing for a performance, but I didn't think that it was out of the ordinary. Like I was like, this is just what you have to go through to be a performer. And I kind of denied that I had it. Like I didn't tell any, like my parents had no idea how much I was struggling before stage and off stage and whatever. So my coping mechanisms were literally to deny it, to just stuff it down and fight through it. And it didn't catch up to me till many years later because I was never publicly embarrassed. Like I say in my program, performance anxiety manifests in two ways. You're either publicly embarrassed because you failed and it's held you back and like you're ashamed of that, or you publicly succeed and then behind the scenes you feel like a failure and a fraud and it attacks you that way. So that was kind of, I was the latter, and it didn't catch up to me till years later. So I didn't really apply any mechanisms other than just like getting up there and getting it done. I did have meditation in my life, but it was sort of like this separate entity of what I would do kind of every now and then. Like I started meditating at 13. But it wasn't like every single day at 13 until now. Like I've been, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like it would be around and I would practice it and dabble with it. But, you know, it wasn't really until like, excuse me. It wasn't really until like my mid-teens where I started to use it to calm down when I felt anxiety. And even then it wasn't enough to like really.
And we're like making those connections right away that it was a healing method or a way to deal with it.
Yeah, like I knew it would make me feel better. It just wasn't, it wasn't something that, I connected to the anxiety, and it wasn't something I used when I had anxiety necessarily. Right. Like I sometimes, yes, excuse me, sometimes no, but it just, it wasn't enough. It was like a great tool to help me in certain scenarios, and I'm sure I'd be a lot worse off without it, but it wasn't the be all end all because I didn't understand the magnitude of my anxiety and the magnitude of how much meditation could help me.
Right.
And then what's that feeling when you're just getting up there and doing it regardless? And if any of these are too personal, you can just tell us to go like.
Oh, I have nothing to hide.
Okay. I was going to swear there, but I didn't.
Shocking.
What's the mental talk then? What's like the self-talk like leading up to it? Like, oh, you have to do this or everyone will think you're a failure, or like what's that
the inner
look
critic?
like? Yeah, exactly.
So not now, but then when I didn't have the tools, my inner I need to clear my throat, sorry. I went in his steam room today and it kind of like loosens some things up. Anyway.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, good to know. My inner trash dogger is what I like to call it. Said things like, if you're not perfect, you're not successful. And if you're not successful, no one will like you, basically. And it came from this like place in me where I always say that I wasn't struggling because I was a performer. I became a performer because I was struggling. I had some childhood traumas that I dealt with, and I think the pain that I felt in those instances was what led me to want to use music to heal and want to perform to heal. And so when I, like, having said that, on that breath, I felt like I needed to have the most successful music career because that was attached to my survival. You know what I mean? Like, if I was using music to heal and using music to survive and to like just be okay, then it was like, well, then this has to be everything. Like, I have to be like a world-renowned like musician and performer to survive. So my, you know, where it came from me to be perfect and to make sure that like I had to nail every single note, it came from a place of needing to make sure that if anybody was in the audience that was like part of a record label, I was on for them, and I was never missing a chance, and every chance is the last chance, and you know what I mean? That was my mentality. So you can imagine the amount of pressure that I put on myself, and the inner trash talker just responded accordingly, like, get this right, or you don't deserve to be up there, like, just all that kind of stuff, you know. And yeah.
Did that, obviously there's a negative aspect to it, or a negative connotation, not even connotation, but a negative aspect to it, obviously. Is there a positive aspect that comes with that? Like, do you think that you were able to push yourself harder because of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say that my vocal skill, like, wasn't achieved via just intense hours upon hours upon hours of trying to get it perfect. And I'm grateful for that. Like, I'm grateful for and here's the other thing is I truly loved it. Like, when I was practicing in my room and whatever, rehearsing in rehearsals and with my cast member stuff, like, I loved it. And I loved being on stage. But it was everything in between that really tore it apart for me. So, I mean, I am grateful for the hours that I put in, because it definitely helped me achieve the skill that I needed, so that when things started to go awry, I was still great. You know what I mean? Like, be so great that even on your worst days, you're still amazing, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, there's for sure, there's positive.
So there's like positive perfectionism and then negative perfectionism almost.
Well, I would say this. I would say perfectionism isn't necessarily ever positive, because it's the absence of authenticity and vulnerability. If you're striving to be perfect, you're covering up fundamentally who you are as a whole person. And who you are as a whole person is brilliant and flawed. So if you're striving to be perfect, then you're striving to not have those flawed aspects of yourself seen. And if you're not letting those be seen, then you're not embracing yourself as a whole, and you're not authentic. So perfectionism, in my opinion, is never something to strive for. It's standing in your truth that is the thing to strive for. Rehearsing and practicing hours upon hours, that's another thing. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're striving for perfection. You're just striving to be better and better. And that, I think, is valuable. But striving for perfectionism is you emulating a version of yourself that you think you need to be accepted, whereas standing in your truth is you embodying who you are right now, and then, like, letting that come through you.
You mentioned, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so your performing career, are you still performing, or how does that look right now?
Yeah, so I am still performing. I'm working more as a coach now to help people that are in performing. So I have taken a step back to, like, write the performance mindset program and to deliver it. But it's just a totally different relationship with the stage, and a totally different relationship with performing now, because I'm able to be courageous enough to stand in my truth, to stand in my flaws and my brilliance. And it doesn't mean that I'm not afraid. Like, I'm definitely still afraid. You're always going to be afraid. But it means that you now have the choice to be courageous, instead of leaving it up to, am I going to get it perfect? Like, the focus is less about trying to change their perspective of you, and it's more about trying to change my perspective of me.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm not trying to change them and the way they look at me. I'm trying to change me and the way that I look at me. And that's everything.
So you'll always be a performer in one way.
100%, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. This is performing right now.
Exactly.
We're all performing.
So that leads us to yoga, unless you have.
Well, yeah, we're going to go there, but I just wanted to talk about, you were talking about, so a shift that you made within your own mental state, your own personal view of yourself. So how does music help you find that identity? Like, what does music do to help you get there?
Can you elaborate on that? I think,
okay, so you're at this state now where you're comfortable and you're not worried about being perfect, right?
Yeah.
So how does, like, when you go through that process, like, you go through it in your own personal life, but how do you go through it, like, through music? Like, what does that look like? Is it like trial and error? Is it like changing, like trying to find a different identity? Like, what is that? Like, how does your career shifted, like your musical career shifted with your own personal development, let's call it?
I think it's more the I'll try to answer this, and if I don't answer
it could be a badly
right,
worded question.
No, it's so I think for me, the thing that's changed isn't necessarily, well, I would say definitely my vocals have gotten better, because I'm able to free up what I've been holding back for so long. You know, like, technically I'm a pretty good vocalist, like, in a technical sense, but there was an element of mental and emotional blockage, because I was holding on to what I thought I needed to sound like, and yada yada yada. So there's a lot more freedom coming through my voice now, which feels nice. It feels better, and I do believe that the freedom that wasn't there before was part of my vocal damage that I went through a few years back. But I think that the one thing that I could say is different, because it's not like I'm necessarily singing any new like cutting edge songs that are way harder. You know what I mean? It's more my experience as a musician and my experience as a performer and singer have shifted, because before it was like I would get up there and I would do great and everyone was like, you just slayed, and I would be turning in on myself, fucking crippled in the corner. Sorry for
No, you
swearing.
can swear.
And just been like, just I was terrible. Like they're all lying to me. Like how do they not see? Like and oh, the people that like that, I mean, they just love me, and they, you know what I mean? It's like their opinion doesn't matter. But now it's like I'm able to enjoy the experience of like singing again and just giving a piece of emotion again and letting people exhale their emotion into what I'm doing. Like it's just the experience is different. So I guess that's the new identity for me. It's sort of like, instead of needing to be this like rock star, it's like I've gotten back to the root, the fundamental root of why I love this so much. And that's what's grounding me in like my identity now. I don't know if that.
No, for sure. That does.
Yeah. I was just going to ask you about your vocal injury and how that switched things in performing, then also as a coach, like what that, because we all go through, you know, moments where they stick out and they change us in some ways. And knowing you personally, I know that was something for you that was really tough.
Oh man, that sucked. Yeah. So there's probably several reasons as to why that injury happened, but basically, I think it was 2012, summer of 2012, I found out that I had the early stages of vocal nodes, which isn't the worst. Like it's still reversible. It's all good. But, I don't know if I actually got nodes in the end or what happened. I didn't go back to check until I was like healed. But basically the protocol was you're not singing and you're not teaching for like 8 months. And, you know, there's a certain amount of time, like I had to go like completely silent. And 8 months later, I didn't know like if I was ever going to sing again. And it completely, you know, it shook me to my core, because it was like obviously all I'd ever known, my modality of survival as far as I was concerned unconsciously. It was all I ever wanted to do. It was all I thought I was capable of. And that's a grieving process you have to go through when you think that you're never going to get it back. But for me, what changed was like what the beauty in the lesson or whatever, the silver lining was understanding like how much more of a whole person I was than just this thing,
Right.
than just this performer that everyone knew as a singer and an artist and whatever. I really, really understood like I have so much more to me than just that. And even though it's a huge part of me now, I think honestly that set me up to be in a place where I can take a step back as an artist and say, I want to help artists now. Like I want to be a coach. So it shifted what I thought my future was going to look like, even though it was like it was one of the most painful experiences I've ever had. Because I thought I was going to lose one of the things that I love the most. But sometimes you go through these things to broaden your horizon of who you can be as a person.
Right.
And it ends up being something you're even happier with.
Yeah.
Which I do feel that way. So yeah.
No, it's good. Singing is part of you. You're not just a singer.
That's right. Like music's going to come along for my ride now, instead of me always going along for music's ride and like dropping everything for the one opportunity that could like launch me into like rock stardom. It's like, yeah, that might happen, and there might be opportunities that come up, and when they do, like I'll take them. But right now, like I'm in control of my destiny, and helping people is what makes me feel the best. So
Sylv mentioned yoga earlier. Yoga.
Your, I guess, other identity, joint identity, which makes you the coach and person that you are. That's actually how we met.
yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, full turnaround. So tell us about your yoga career and how it's sort of aligned with your performing career and where you're at today with that.
Yeah. So like, obviously I already told you I'd been performing for 20 years. 11 years ago, I moved to the city of Toronto and like needed something to fulfill my like years of kickboxing. Because I felt like after I left my small town, I needed something like just as intense and just as aggressive to like keep me going. Anyway, got into fitness. And one day, like my fitness mentor was like, hey, do you want to just sub my class? I see you coming here all the time. Like, I'm sure you can do a good job. Like, I know you have
Fitness industry.
Yeah.
Hey, you could pull this off.
Yeah. I think you can do this. You have no credentials. I have no idea really anything about your background, but you're good. Anyway, so I got into, long story short, I ended up getting my fitness cert, and then teaching fitness so much, I ended up getting injured. So I found yoga. Got my yoga cert. This is like a fast forward version of the story. And for the last like 10, 11 years, I've been leading individuals and groups through fitness and yoga, which was what started out as like a side job where I was like, cool, I can stay healthy and in shape for the stage and help other people. And now it's like a full-time career. So at some point, that yoga and the fitness was this thing that was like a full-on career as well as the music career. And I was like, sweet, I just can't do 2 careers anymore. This is way too much to keep both of these careers alive and to thrive in both of them.
Right.
So that's when I decided to put them together and bridge the gap between my 20 years of performance experience, my ability to manage my own performance anxiety and overcome it, and then my 10, 11 years of all the wellness experience that I have, like with meditation and the nervous system and stuff like that. So that is how that all intertwines.
Okay.
And what's that yoga journey look like? You get injured, you start going, and then how do you progress through that? I don't really understand. Are there different governing bodies? Are there different, like, how does that work?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, yoga is such a broad, it's sort of like as many types of musical genres there are. Now there's as many types of yoga genres. So usually you just have to figure out what type of yoga works for you. People always say like yoga is so good for you, and it's actually not. The right type of yoga is good for you depending on what you do. So for me, I found like an athletic style of yoga that was really safe and taught me a lot about the body and the bone alignment. It's called yoga. And it was designed specifically for professional athletes. And, you know, I first started out with my 200-hour regular yoga cert, which was just like a mix of like vinyasa and hatha and Ayurvedic stuff, like all the protocol that the Yoga Alliance wants you to fulfill in a training. And then the next cert that I got was yoga. And then I got 2 other certs, one in breath and sound therapy and the other one in yoga for mental health. So that was like my yoga journey and over the last 10 years or so, and that's all the knowledge that I gained from those trainings was really what kind of spun me into, okay, like breath is really important actually for the nervous system. This could really benefit performers and singers, and same with the meditation and the mindfulness. It's like, right, if we're not aware of like how twisted we are inside, we can't really do anything about it. So mindfulness is key too. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was, I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah,
sure.
Sweet.
And then yoga, that's good. I mean, it's not how we met, but it's also like our first real interaction.
Totally.
Right? It was through yoga.
Yeah.
JB came down and killed it. What's the goal with that? Do you always want to teach yoga moving forward? Is that something that you'll phase away from and you'll go more into performance? Is it?
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah, I totally know.
Yeah.
I totally know. I love teaching yoga to, I mean, I love working with Gary's guys in the summer with you guys. It's a great thing to do. There's certain clients of mine that have been like grandfathered into my schedule. Like, I don't know if I could ever let them go unless I moved. Mm-hmm. But am I pursuing more private clients through yoga and yoga? No. Is it something that I want to expand on as a business? No. Will I put sequences and different classes online? Totally, because it'd be a waste not to like share what I've experienced over the last 10 years. But no, like I do know that that will one day not be what I do more, and like I'll do less of that and more of the coaching and the programs and the leadership stuff that I'm doing now with the performance mindset. So yeah, that's to answer that question.
Will it be a part of your life in your own personal capacity? Like, will you do yoga forever? Is that
the philosophy of it?
Yes.
So the postures, not as much. I think for me, because I do it so much, it's like I never practice it, but I practice the philosophies. So the philosophies of mindfulness, the philosophies of bridging the gap between spirit, body, and mind, like whatever philosophies. I mean, the philosophies are different for each person, but those are my philosophies, and the philosophies of what you are able to handle on the mat, you can then transfer off the mat. Like all of that. It's the same thing though for me when I work out and lift weights. Like that's a really spiritual practice for me. So in a sense, yoga will always be a part of my philosophies in what I do physically, but it won't necessarily always be like the physical practice of yoga that I do for myself. Maybe in 10 years when I'm not teaching it anymore ever, then I will want to do my own practice, but I just teach it and demonstrate it so much that physically it's not.
You're not interested.
Yeah, not really. But the philosophies are so huge and so helpful that I'll always take that with me no matter what I'm doing. So I guess in a sense, yeah, yoga will always be a part of my life.
What I find interesting about yoga is that the postures are actually a really small part of like the actual philosophies of yoga.
Totally.
And I think that's like really misunderstood in North America because it's come so popular, and there's like, cycle yoga. I actually don't know if that's a thing, but
Probably.
like maybe.
On
Probably.
a bike? Is it on a bike?
I was just like thinking about something ridiculous that goes with yoga because I feel like everything
Yeah.
is,
It's probably window washing yoga like, at the end of the day.
But the postures and like what you're
Yeah.
talking about with
Yeah.
the philosophies, like, can you break that down a little bit more about like is it more the meditation side, or like is that when you say the philosophies of yoga, is it just like not just the postures? Like, what do you mean by that?
It's a good question. So we have westernized the shit out of yoga over here. And on one hand, I don't see it as a bad thing because it gets people moving. It gets people doing a type of movement or workout that might be better for them than like running or a group X fitness class or whatever.
Right.
But on the other hand, I do think that we've put way too big of an emphasis on perfecting the postures, whereas in the East, where it came from, it was the form follows the flow. So you're
Right.
tapped into your energetic structure and you're working with the chakras, and then your body moves according to what's going on in your chakras.
Right.
And we've like basically all around lost that.
Yeah.
In the West, like for the most part. I'm not gonna like overarching statement that just because I'm sure there's people that are out there going like, hey, I'm spiritual. Like I talk about the chakras in my class. But even still, it's just, yeah, like I think we're a lot out of touch with we're out of touch with the spirituality and the philosophies that I'm talking about are, I mean, there's a lot of yoga philosophies, but
Yeah.
basic yoga philosophies are just, it's like really mindful, like even just mindfulness. Like, does this feel good, or am I just trying to force myself into this position because everyone else is?
Because it's not about flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like, does this feel good, or does yoga actually give me an anxiety attack and I should be doing like, I should be getting
whatever.
massage right now, or like going, I don't even know,
Yeah. What does training look like for you then?
Training. What does training look like for me?
Yeah, if it's not yoga, what the?
I love aerial silks.
Okay.
It's a modality of perform, but it also strengthens my upper back, which I need, as you guys know, because it's just, I'm always so prone, and like there's just a lot of anterior work that I'm always doing with yoga. So I love silks because it allows me to perform, quote unquote, at the same time as fly, at the same time as actually have a workout. I also just recently started doing weights again with Sylvie.
Yes.
And it was
What?
really invigorating. I'm really, really excited to go on that journey again. I haven't done weights in like 10 years and I need to.
Hashtag gains.
Yeah, really excited about it.
Totally.
That's
yeah,
good. We talked about strong is the new sexy earlier today, so that like flows in perfectly.
it
Yeah.
totally
There you go.
is.
Yeah.
I feel like it always has been. It's
Yeah.
just us that have been sick
Had
in
a
the head
little
about it.
shift about it.
Yeah,
Well, I just don't think, like females and weightlifting is a funny topic if you look back
true,
like
true.
20 years. Like,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
grab those 3-pound dumbbells and let's do tricep extensions for an
the-
hour,
Yeah.
and you'll
Jane
be toned.
Fonda.
You'll be so toned.
But then again, I mean, there are still like where there's like evolution. There's always people that like
Of course.
beat the dead horse. Like there's a lot of like broads out there that are just. It's like the same like thing as like dudes just only doing pecs.
Oh yeah, it's the same.
It's like they're only doing ass. You know what I mean?
That's it.
Like it's like a skinny chick with just the biggest ass. It's
Just
like
donkey
cool.
kickbacks.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the other one where they like one knee on the bench, 2 hands, and then the leg just like butterflies in the back. Like, what the fuck are you doing there? Get off. You look like a seal
This
getting
could go on all
electrocuted.
day, but yeah. Yeah.
An electrocuted seal.
Just we could do a whole podcast on what we
Anyway.
see in the
Certainly
gym.
should.
That would be actually a great
What we see
segment.
in the gym.
Yeah.
Like,
What we seen? Oh man.
ridiculous stuff
Spin
in the gym.
off doing it.
Totally.
We've
You
done
know
3 episodes and we were doing spin-offs.
Totally. No, for sure. It's how it works.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounded so Canadian.
Like Bob and Tom McKenzie. This is just like just Russian roulette here. We're just throwing stuff at you.
Love it.
Hammer
time.
We talked about mindfulness in yoga, and that kind of leads into the next section. Sylvie, talk about it.
Yeah, so we've actually done an interview on this before. We'll link it in the show notes.
Yeah, totally.
So mindfulness and meditation, give us a breakdown because they're obviously really popular right now. Are they the same thing? How do you see that? And how would you recommend to start with something like mindfulness that we've been talking about tonight?
Yeah, great question. So mindfulness is basically, the way I like to look at it, the simplest way to put it is like mindfulness as a category of meditation. Meditation comes in all different shapes and sizes, just like yoga does. Guided meditation, breathing meditations, chanting meditations, deep meditations. Mindfulness is just a modality of meditation. And it's actually quite simple. It's bringing awareness, the ability to bring awareness or observe your physical, emotional, and mental state, which I call the PEM state, while doing something. You can, while not doing something, while doing something, just at all, being able to observe those states. And the purpose of it is to bring awareness. It's not necessarily going to calm you down. So people get confused when they do mindfulness because they're like practicing it and they're like, oh my God, I feel really upset right now. And it's like, well, because you're observing what's there for you. And what's there for you might not be sunshine and rainbows. It might be a storm. You know what I mean? So if you're observing yourself, you want to be ready to see what's actually there for you and accept it. Excuse me, because whatever's there for you is showing you that it's there so that you can change it. So mindfulness is quite simple. You don't need like a PhD to practice it or to teach it. It's literally just the act of observation of those 3 states of what's going on for you. And the more you can do that like in silence, the more you can do that when you're in a situation like this where like you can just, it's just an innate, you just reflect back on what you're doing. So it's the purpose of it is awareness, and awareness, as we all know, is the first step to change. So it's very vital because we all need to change and grow.
So leading into meditation, I know you touched on it a bit since you've been doing it since you were 13. How has that impacted your life, and what do you do now / what would you recommend for others to get into a meditation practice? Yeah,
that's a really great question.
Wow. Wow.
Hello, you want to answer that? That's awesome. Hi, Clee. Oh man, my voice.
Can edit that.
It's okay. Yeah, no, we cannot edit that. You should have turned your phone off.
It's all good. Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Meditation. How did you get into it? Right. Who was the influence? And then also, what would you recommend for someone starting out for meditation practice?
Just a quick slurp.
Yeah.
We'll just talk. You can cough and we'll just keep talking back and forth until you're good.
Seriously, sorry. Yeah, I don't. Sometimes my voice gets a little.
Sometimes we have to cough. It's okay.
Yep, totally. You're actually, so like my vocal coach is like, you're not supposed to clear your throat like that. She's like, you have to do it a certain way so it doesn't rub the vocal cords together. Anyway,
seriously?
But it sounds really
everybody
stupid.
does that. Can
Sorry.
you please demonstrate how it is?
So she says it's almost like how does she explain it? She's like, this is like a vocal coach that I like did a few sessions with like way back, but she was like, you're supposed to go like this. Like you're supposed to sound like a kid coughing.
Have you watched Steve Aoki's?
Really
Steve Aoki, that's right.
Yeah,
I got the guy right. Have you watched like Rest When You're Dead or Sleep When You're Dead or whatever his documentary is on Netflix?
I haven't.
So good.
So he had vocal surgery, which makes sense because he plays like 500 shows a year and just screams.
I didn't even know he did vocals. Maybe I'm crazy.
It's just yells.
Okay.
But
Oh, right, like into the audience, like
Right,
what up
exactly.
everyone.
Yeah, it's like
gotcha.
super high energy
Right.
and like
He was on a podcast, and I want to say maybe Lewis Howes, but I'm not 100%. And he asked him what he's proud of, and he said the ability to sneeze without like ruffling my vocal cords. And then he like broke down like how to do it, like this
Right,
like
I
open
forgot
mouth,
that
like
part.
like
Yeah.
some sort of like ostrich noise.
That's so
But
amazing. I
anyway.
totally get that. I totally get how like
So yeah, for future reference, guys,
Yeah.
sneeze, cough, be careful about
and
your vocal
laughing. You got
cords.
to be careful too.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
Meditation.
Meditation. Yeah.
Full circle.
How did I get into that? So my mom actually had like been meditating all of my life, and since she was like 30 basically. And so as a kid, naturally, like I would see her meditating and be really curious about it, and like sometimes go and sit with her and stuff. And you know, she would try to give me different tools because I was a really like rowdy kid.
wouldn't have guessed that.
Right. So yeah, so essentially like my mom was the person that got me into meditation. My dad practiced too, but it was a different method, which I didn't really love, called Zen, or Zen. He did Zen teachings. And so that's how I started. And my meditation regimen now it's a bunch of different things. Sometimes I like to chant. I find sound therapy and what that does to the brain waves is really neutralizing to emotions. And I'm a singer, right? Like, so singing in general really, really helps me with overwhelming emotion. It's like a release of emotion. I do breathing exercises as well to interfere with the physiological response to anxiety, as well as balance the nervous system. It's a mixed bag of things. I do a deep meditation, which is, it's kind of hard to explain, but basically there's a certain thing that you focus on internally, and like a few focal points on the body, and you literally just sit still and do nothing, and you focus on those things, and you completely let whatever comes up come up, and eventually you find yourself into a deeper state where you're not thinking and your breath is very passive. And then mindfulness, of course, is something I practice depending on whatever I'm doing. Like if I'm in yoga or whatever, mindfulness is a huge component because you have to be mindful when you're moving. So that's like what I do, but I know that's not very helpful because it's not like a formula. It's just sort of like, here are all the things that I do. But for someone getting into meditation, I think one of the biggest things is just to do some exploration. Like I just named 5 different types of meditation. Creative visualization is another one, like creating a rich context story with an outcome-based focus to manifest more opportunities or success or whatever it is. Do some research around, like, you know, if you like to use your voice, maybe chanting is for you. If you value yoga, think about really incorporating breath work into that and see how it makes your body feel. Like if you like the sounds of deep meditation and really learning to hone your energy and be still physically and internally, then maybe deep meditation is for you. I think the biggest thing though is that like maybe try one method for like 3 weeks and see how that makes you feel, and then move on to the next one. Because the thing with meditation, this is actually really huge. There's more resistance to meditation, which is you getting up from your, like, literally sitting in a chair, like next to you, wherever you are, and doing meditation. There's more resistance to that than physically putting on your gym clothes, getting in your car or walking to the gym, and then going to do a physical, grueling workout.
Yeah.
And here's why. There's a few reasons. Reason number 1 is that meditation doesn't change us or like show us any like visual gains that other people can see. So it doesn't necessarily like shape your body right away or even at all, or make you more beautiful. I mean, I'd argue it does because it comes from the inside, but there's no like gains that you can measure on a physical plane that other people will see, that you will see. So there's kind of a resistance there. But the other thing, and this is getting a little bit like more whatever spiritual, but your ego, your personality, what you have to use to communicate and to function in life, its main function is to keep you alive. Like it's survival. Your ego, your personality, and the way you engage is there to keep you alive. If you didn't have it, you would not have the instinct to stay alive. So when you do things like meditate, let the reverb trickle off.
Wow.
When you do things like meditate, you actually evolve the ego. And when the ego feels itself being evolved, it thinks that it's going to die. Like, I know it sounds crazy, but it does. It's threatened that you think that you don't need it anymore. And this is what's so ridiculous about people always saying like gotta like get rid of the ego or like abolish the ego. It's like you can't, A, and B, you shouldn't. Like, you should be friends with the ego because you're like, that's how you're alive. So when the ego feels or senses that you're trying to evolve or you're wanting to evolve, there's a resistance that happens because it's afraid that it's going to get abolished. And the way to solve that is just to talk to it and be like, excuse me, and to be like, I get that you're anxious about this right now, but like we're going to do this together and it's going to be okay. Like, no one's going to die. So the resistance to it can happen, and that's why I recommend trying something out for an extended period of time instead of just doing something once and being like, that didn't work for me. Because even when something works for you, you're going to do that. You're going to be like, didn't work for me. Like, I don't know. It's just not, I don't really feel like it. You're never going to feel like it, but it's good for you. So do it.
Yeah. And I think like what you said about like, essentially there's no like quick reward is super important, because I run into that all the time with food and how like this type of stuff is not sexy. It's not like you're going to get these immediate results and that type of thing. It's like consistency, which I think, you know, your point is about doing it in different ways and finding what works for you and doing it consistently is what's more important.
Exactly. As opposed to the right way or the way other people think you should or absolutely. Yeah. So that's a good point, is what works for you. Yeah. And you have to be mindful to know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe mindfulness is a good place to start. Like, start becoming aware of yourself. Step one.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And then what's your practice look like? I know you gave 5 different types. Is it like, is Monday one, is Tuesday another? Is it whenever you feel like you need it? Is it once a week? What's the...
I wish I could say I was that organized to be like, okay, like, you know.
Today's deep day and then today's mantra day. Yeah.
Totally. Honestly, most of the time I feel like I need deep meditation. Mm-hmm. So that's what I resort to most of the time. I find that there's an extreme amount of healing that goes on with that. But I do kind of use these tools as needed. Like, to manage anxiety and to feel good in the world and to help others is a multi-pronged approach. It's a slew of things. It's not just one thing. So I use breathing when I feel like my nervous system is out of balance. I use chanting or singing, even when, you know, just even singing, practicing singing is a meditation to me. I use that when I feel like I need to release emotion, you know. It's really more what I'm aware of in the moment, and then I usually...
And there you go.
Yeah, I wish I could say I was more consistent, but I'd like to meditate every day, but I don't. Like, I'm in the struggle with y'all. It's like, at the end of the day, like, there's weeks that go by sometimes and I don't really actually sit down to practice. And then there's weeks where it's like every day I do, you know, so...
And do you notice a difference when weeks go by, or is it one of those things where there's an external shift and then you feel like you need to do it, but if there hadn't been an external shift, you could have just kept riding it out?
Without doing it, you mean?
Without doing it,
yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, yeah, it's usually, I hate believing this, and I hate that this like might be true, but usually as people, we need to have a kick in the ass to evolve.
Of course.
We need to get brought to our knees sometimes to really change, and I think that self-awareness can mitigate that a little bit. Like, the more aware you are, the more you'll be able to see sooner that things are starting to go badly, and then you can nip it in the bud a little bit better. But like, I think right now, as the species we are, it usually takes a kick in the butt to actually get into action. And I don't believe it'll always be like that, but maybe the more aware we become, the easier it'll be. But yeah, no, I usually, it's like, I need to do this again. Yeah, if you're good, you feel good. Like, why do you want to mess with that? Like, don't fix it if it ain't broke, you know? Yeah. So, yeah, but.
That's
awesome.
Good. We want to talk about your coaching program real fast.
Yeah, we want to know where we can find out about it, when you're doing it next. And we talked about who it was for, but you can talk about that again.
Yeah, totally. So you can find it on janeybrown.com. There's a tab that says coaching, and you just click on that and you can find all about it on there. The next launch date I haven't set yet. We're in the middle of this one. So I'm thinking it's going to be sometime in the summer. I just have to, I don't know, it's either the summer or likely the fall, but I'll definitely have to keep you guys posted. Yeah, and the program itself it's a 5-week, 5-module program that works a lot with meditation, mindfulness techniques, developing positive lifestyle habits, understanding how to be courageous and face your fears, understanding how to be impactful as a performer and as a leader. Not, so, and then there's like some freebies where it's like, listen to this meditation backstage right before you go on, or the 24-hour prep checklist before you go on stage or before you have a performance or whatever it is that you're doing that you feel nervous about. So there's a lot of tips and tricks as far as like practical performance tactics, but it's also, but for the base of it is really grounded in lifestyle habits like meditation, journaling, mindfulness, breath work, because who you are on the stage is who you are off the stage is who you are on the stage again. So you can't just meditate
Right.
5 minutes before you go on stage and be a stress case in your life and then expect like just because you meditated like it's going to be okay. It's like, no, you're not going to be able to manage anything about your thoughts or your emotional brain or any of your nervous system structure. Like none of that is like at all taken care of. So you have to implement this stuff into your life so that you can see the change you want to see when you then step on stage.
Yeah, we are what we do regularly.
Exactly. You guys know all about this. You guys probably taught me a thing or two about that.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
for sure you
debatable.
did.
It's debatable. I think we're gonna go championship rounds.
Yeah.
Championship
Let's
rounds.
do it.
It's funny. I explained this today to Kate, and she just looked at me like I was an asshole. Like, of
Well, you
course I
realize
know
that
what
I'm
this
a
is. I work in
sportscaster.
sports.
Oh my God, I don't know what this is. I feel stupid.
Well, championship rounds. So I'm glad I get to sound smart again for a moment. In a fight, there's like regular fights, right? And then
Yep.
there's championship fights, and the championship fights are longer than the regular fights.
Oh, okay,
And
okay.
those are the championship rounds.
Cool.
And those rounds matter more.
So because we're champions, we get to.
We're going championship
Yeah,
rounds.
I love it.
So these
I
are
feel so special now.
Yeah, kind of rapid fire, but not really. Like
Yeah, take your time to answer them if you want it.
Let's go first. People connect with you, social. What's going? Like, we'll link it up down low. But
Oh, okay,
give it
right.
to them.
Janey B World is my Instagram, my Twitter, and my Facebook.
Okay.
And then SoundCloud, LinkedIn, and YouTube is all just /Janey Brown.
Okay.
And Fearce Academy.
Fearce Academy. Oh my God. So this company is so brand new. I just sent in my letter of, just sent in my letter of amendment, just got approved, just starting to build. But essentially that is where I'm going to house all of my online programs, and I'm going to house, a community of people to support each other in courage and fear-based stuff. So
Awesome. And it's spelled awesome.
thank you.
Quite punny.
FEARCE Academy. It's because it's fusing the word fears and fierce, because we often think that we need to be fearless in life, but we don't. We actually need our fears to be more fierce. Blah.
Love it.
Okay. What book are you eager to read? So not what book have you read. This is a tough question.
Can it be one that I'm reading?
Sure.
Right now?
If you haven't completed it,
I haven't.
Is it Harry Potter?
that's a gray zone.
You better be done that.
I'm not. Oh my God.
Anyway.
No, fair enough. No, so I'm eager to read Harry Potter, and I'm reading right now Rising Strong by Brene Brown, who's
Okay.
like basically
She's
my hero.
amazing.
Yeah.
Rising Strong.
Yeah, Rising Strong. Yeah. She's a hero.
Awesome. Who's someone from your life, like personal life, that you know that you interact with? And it doesn't have to be regularly, but you have it's not, I don't know, Jay-Z. Like, you've never met Jay-Z, or maybe you have, I don't know, but
No, I
like,
haven't.
like you guys aren't boys.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right? So who's someone from your personal life that you interact with that you would love to hear on a podcast, that you think would be great on a podcast and you would download it and listen?
Oh, that's not, you're saying that's not a friend?
Well, no, I'm saying is a friend.
They can be.
They can be a friend, but I'm saying someone that you've interacted with and you think has tons of stuff to share. They have great value to share.
I'd say Kevin Rimple.
Kevin Rimple?
Yeah, Paralympic athlete, world champion, BMXer, and entrepreneur. You guys met him.
We met Kevin. I was gonna say we met Kevin.
Yeah,
Really
right,
nice guy.
right. Yeah, he's got a crazy story. Oh my God, you got to get Kevin on here.
Okay, we'll hook it up. We'll link it up.
Yeah, definitely. He's awesome.
What are you most excited about right now?
The possibility of like skyrocketing and nothing really holding me back. Like that knowing that because courage is a choice, like my destiny is in my hands.
And then last question, what does the word champion mean to you?
Someone who is able to be courageous in their emotional honesty. And like every time. as scared as they are, as hurt as they are, someone who is able to be grounded in themselves enough to show honesty.
That's good.
Amazing. We want to thank you
Thank you.
because you're a very close friend of ours, but we also believe that you have so much to give with your experience and your coaching. So we want to thank you and acknowledge that you're a badass in what you do.
Oh my gosh, you guys are such badasses too. So fierce with an EARCE. Yeah, no, my pleasure is all mine, honestly. Amazing.